gentlemen, now before I move on to my main point about the mixed social environment and the benefits that it brings to students of grammar schools, I'd first like to give you some points of rebuttal pointing out the invalidities of the arguments that have been given to you by the proposition today. Now, first of all, it's been implied, in fact it has been directly said by the Prime Minister at the very start of his speech, that grammar schools have been monopolised by middle-class parents who, and I quote, pay their way into grammar schools. This argument holds absolutely no weight whatsoever, as this debate is not based around finances, therefore this point is entirely irrelevant. Now, moving on. He also made many points about morality. The Prime Minister argues that all the bright students are being put together. Now, I will refer to this later on in my argument about social environment, which is one of the main points about this debate, as my colleague will continue. But for starters, I'd like to point out that this is only potentially detrimental to local comprehensive schools rather than to the educational provision in the UK. Now, while we may argue that it is detrimental to these local ones, it's not detrimental to all of them on the whole of the country and the whole of where we are as a government and how we provide education. Therefore, again, that argument does not hold very much validity in the context of this debate. Now, I'd like to refer to this in my rebuttal in that competition occurs everywhere in life, and this is something that the proposition do not seem to understand. Competition occurs everywhere, and referring to it in terms of morality actually does not hold much importance, as there will always be other people from perhaps from privileged backgrounds who will be after the same roles. Life, quite simply, is not fair, and there will always be someone or something in your way.
Point of information.
No, thank you, sir. There is nothing wrong with preparing students for the ways that life may disadvantage them in the future. And
on that point.
I'll take you in a moment, sir. And telling them all that whatever they do, they're going to be all on the same foot for the rest of their lives and they will all get exactly the same chances is quite frankly unrealistic and I think quite a bit more unfair to them. Do go on, sir.
You said that there's nothing wrong with preparing people for secondary school and extra life, but do you not think that everybody should then be prepared in the same way?
Everybody is prepared in the same way because they all have the chance to take the same test, the 11 plus. This is the point that I'm making. Now, the second speaker has said that these students need to want to learn. Now, honestly, in life, you need to want things. You need to have some kind of a motivation to get these things. And people don't seem to be understanding on the proposition side of the bench that, to be quite frank, in life, you need to have a hard head and you need to be able to work through these things.
On that point.
No, thank you, sir. Now, this carries me on delightfully to my next point of rebuttal, which was made by the second speaker. She states that comprehensive schools demotivate their students due to rejection. Now, first of all, believing that failing one test is going to ruin them for life, no thank you, miss, is actually more of a reflection of the way that your side views the students of comprehensive schools than the way that the system treats them. So quite honestly, I think you may need to reevaluate the way that you look at the students of these schools that you claim to be defending. Besides, you cannot claim that comprehensive schools are as a whole demotivated and not going to do as well when the majority of the university students are comprehensive school students. Now, it is true.
Point of information.
No, thank you. Now, it is true. It is undeniable the majority of grammar school students do go to university, but this does not mean the majority of university students are from grammar schools, as the minority of grammar schools is in fact so small. No, thank you, Mom. This does mean that, in fact, comprehensive schools still have just as much of a chance of getting into university, and in fact, the grammar school system is in fact not as detrimental as you claim it to be. So, no, thank you. Right. Now, finally, my last point of rebuttal is on the second and third speakers having made the point in great depth about the unfairness of the tutoring of the 11 plus. They've got quite passionate about it too. And this kind of ties into the idea that the Prime Minister was bringing up about parents who are middle class just tutoring their children from a very young age, locking them in their bedrooms and telling them to read medical textbooks. Now, I would like to refer to the fact that the 11 plus is having a board change. It's already been done in the grammar schools in Slough. This is not a concentrated change, it's happening all over the country. This board does not release practice papers, so it does not allow their students to be excessively tutored and allow them to basically have the answers drilled into them and rehearsed. So it does demonstrate, you can't deny, and I'm not going to say that it...
Oh, Mom, please accept.
No, thank you. Now, obviously, I'm not going to claim the 11 plus means, if passing the 11 plus means that you're automatically smarter than another individual, but it does demonstrate, at least to some extent, a strong work ethic and an ability to study for whatever they may need. Now, this does take me on to my main point, after having pointed out all the issues that we've found with the proposition's argument. The main point that I have is about the mixed social environment, as I've said before. Now, there will always be a variety of students and a variety of types of students and a scale of attributes in different forms wherever you go, whether it's a comprehensive school or a grammar school. There will be people with strengths and weaknesses that differ in their type. There will be people with different work ethics, people with different manners and mannerisms and the way they approach their jobs. Now, students are not a hive mind wherever you go. At a grammar school, they're not all aiming to go to Oxford and Cambridge. They're not all aiming to go into high-profile, high-paid jobs. And at comprehensive schools, they're not all thinking, well, that's it, I'm going to be a bin man. As much as you may claim them to be so, viewing them as such a hive mind is in fact more detrimental than you claim grammar schools to be. So to conclude, I'd like you, Honourable Chair, to acknowledge the errors that we found in the proposition's argument, and I would urge you, on the grounds of a mixed social environment and the benefits it can bring people from having people of a similar mind and a similar work ethic in one school, and to acknowledge the problems in assuming that everyone is a hive mind, and to acknowledge that in fact grammar schools are anything but a detriment to the way that we educate our children in the UK. Thank you for your time.